And we are live. Plutocrats, what's up? Back, episode 2 of the Plutocrats. Big one, lot to talk about here. Election night last night. We're still awaiting what the final decision is going to be, and we might be waiting a lot longer, but there's plenty to touch on. Senate races, the House, all that stuff. Talk about NEO uh, and all those Chinese companies, Ant Group, what they got going on, Jack Dorsey maybe, and how Jack Ma might be a little bit of a copycat, and a bunch more to talk about. So we'll fill up a good 2 hours here today. So let's jump right into it with the election. What do you thinking generally, Phil?
Last night it was pretty wild how a lot of those states started off one way and they worked their way back. Whether we had a few definitely Biden states that started off blue that Trump worked his way into the lead, and now there's a few red states that flipped. I don't know about this 100,000 ballots. I'm sure people are waking up reading about that 100,000 ballots just showed up in states, and I'm sure we're going to hear a lot more about that.
138,339 is the number. Votes, one click. None went up in the Trump category. 138,339 up in the Biden category. And I mean, realistically, that like it could be computers, it can be anything. You can't really take it.
Exactly. I think we're going to hear a lot about that.
But it's also a statistical improbability for it to ever be a 100%. 138,339 out of 138,339.
If they showed up with a bag of ballots, 138,000 ballots, and all of them were,
and that's when it refreshed, it's quite possible. Yeah, I mean,
that makes no.
I don't know how much.
I'm saying if they showed up with 138,000 ballots, they counted it. They're fine. No sense. That makes no sense.
No. Yeah, that's not. I'm
sure we're gonna find out a lot more what's going on about that in the next couple of days. But what I'm thinking more is, once again, why are all these polls wrong? Did they not figure out last time on how to take a poll of more than like 500 people and different demographics, college educated versus non-college educated, and blue collar versus white collar jobs? Because it seems like they just can't get it right. No one.
They can't get it right. I mean, literally the same exact feeling. I was texting, my cousin last night. This is like deja vu. It's just happening again. I mean, they literally got it so wrong again. If anything, if anybody, people say the weathermen get their job wrong a lot. The polls are never right. They're never right.
And it wasn't even just it wasn't like last time where it was all Hillary. It was even some Trump states. They're a lot closer than what was polled. Like it doesn't add up. Are they intentionally showing? Is there an intentional? Are they trying to sway the public through polls? You know what I mean?
And I don't even, maybe not even necessarily that, but they may be, my thinking is that they may be swaying people prior to, and they twist the language. So they go out there and they ask a bunch of people who are on the fence, who do you think is going to vote, or who do you think is going to win? They say, who do you think is?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's not who do I want to win. Who am I going to vote for? That's who do I think? And everybody's skeptical, especially those people in the center who are answering these polls. So they're going, well, I might be leaning one way, but I don't really know. I don't really think he's going to win. So I'm going to go and say, in this example, say it's a Trump supporter. Well, I don't think he's going to win, but I'm going to be voting for him. Okay, well, then I'm going to say in this poll, because you said who will win, I'm going to say Biden. And then they switch it. Well, when they put it out to the public, it's, well, polls say that Biden's leading. Well, maybe not. Or even on the other side, the right-leaning news organizations do the same exact thing. It's terrible on both sides. And
definitely.
It's a flip-flop of language, really, I think, from what they're asking the people versus what they're putting out there as, and it's deceptive.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, there needs to be more. I don't want to say regulation, but almost I would rather look at a poll where the company puts out how they're getting the information. You know what I mean? I'd rather see.
Yeah.
I want to see what the questions were. Not even the whole thing. Don't even need the whole thing, but like just some of it. There's definitely a way to conduct a poll. So tell me how you conducted it or which scientific matter.
Yeah. Why don't they just put up, here's the 4 questions we asked everybody word for word, and this is the number of tallies that we got in each answer. Yes or no questions, left or right answers, 1 or 2.
Exactly. Like give me some raw data.
Yeah.
Not just
I think the majority of people have, the people answering the polls are probably like, well, I think realistically everybody understands that they're just kind of feeding adrenaline. Now, whether or not when they actually start watching the news and stuff like that, the polls are one thing, but the actual news that it's a little bit more emotional. You can get a little bit more into it when you're actually watching the physical. Let's see. Did you see the Republican rancher in North Dakota died of coronavirus, and he won the seat in the state legislature?
No, I didn't see that. He died. He's a dead.
He's already dead. Passed away because of coronavirus and just won the seat.
Really? So now that they're gonna have to hold a special election in January for it, or
I don't know how I didn't read too much into it. I just saw the headline, but I mean, you would have to have. They can't just give it to the
what state was that?
Competitor, because I mean, he really wasn't. He didn't win.
What did he win? What state?
North Dakota state legislature.
Take a little quick look here. Wow.
You see it?
Yeah. I got it on CNBC here.
Hold up.
Oh, I can't screen share. It says
Okay,
host. It says host disabled. Do you want me to text it to you?
No, I'll do it.
Your computer? Okay.
I mean, other than did you also see? Do you know who Tommy Tuberville is? Tuberville
No.
coached Ole Miss football, Auburn football for a while. He just won the Alabama senator seat.
I saw that the Republicans took a few incumbent seats. Did he take an incumbent of a Democrat?
Yeah, it was. It was Alabama's first Democrat in many years. All right, so I'm going to bring up this Nevada rancher, or North Dakota rancher. I'm sorry. Washington Post article. North Dakota Republican died of COVID-19 in October. He still won his election. So David Andall died in early October, just as coronavirus was punishing the state of North Dakota. He's a 55-year-old rancher. North Dakota's 8th district. See if it says what they do from here.
Oh, I saw something about a special election. Scroll back up. Right above that ad. Right? Oh.
North Dakota election officials initially had no precedent on how to address the death of the candidate. The state's attorney general issued an opinion later in October on how to proceed should Allendale win. He said the local Republican Party will be responsible for filling his vacant seat until a special election. So fill in until they have another election with whoever they fill the spot with.
Did you see Madison Cawthorn in the Carolinas? In North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
He's in the wheelchair. He's the young guy. He's only like 28, 29 years old.
Yep, military vet, yeah.
Yeah. He took his I think he's in the House. I don't think he's in the Senate. But so
he didn't win.
No, he won, didn't he?
Oh, he did win. Okay. No,
yeah, no, he won.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's gonna be representing Western North Carolina. Pretty wild, young man with some pretty different views compared to what we see out of a lot of the young representatives these days, like AOC and Rashad Tlaib, and just the younger generation of them.
Yeah.
And here with his old style views, even though it's not really old style, as we can see, Trump winning. I think America really wants to get back to those old style, the nuclear family. People want.
Yeah, I think that does have a lot to do
safe
when it comes down to it.
People want to feel safe, and people want to be able to go to sleep with doors unlocked again. You
Yeah.
want to be worried.
Let's dig deep into this election. So let's talk about the Electoral College because that's kind of a big one. What are your thoughts? You know, do you like the Electoral College? Do you hate it? Do you think it should be, revised or maybe looked at for
Now,
some
the
changes? What
electoral
are you
college
thinking?
definitely not my favorite, but I think it's an imperfect system for an imperfect world. It's like until you come up with a better system, like we definitely can't do the popular vote. That's just out of the question. Like
No, I agree, and I think
that,
that's generally why I like
yeah.
the Electoral College general. I mean, I don't necessarily love it.
How we were
Uh,
discussing the other day about
yeah.
county by county. Now that's something I really think how it should be. I think like say now, I think I was just looking before. I think it's New York has 29
Mhm.
electoral college votes. So well, we have a shit ton of counties. So I don't know how they would break it up. But let's say they break it up into so let's say 30 for an even number. They break the state up into 5 sections, and each section gets 6 electoral college votes. And then like the winner of each section should get their votes, their respective number of votes. It should be like the other states that I think it's Nebraska and Maine that break it down. They're the only two. And I think that would make it a lot more fair. It would break it. Well, I think people would feel like their vote counts a lot more.
And that's an interesting one too because with Omaha, Nebraska, given those 2 points dividing, if Biden were to get Nevada from here, to get Michigan, and to get Wisconsin, then that those 2 votes in Omaha would push him to the 270 flat. So that's something that comes into play.
Exactly. If he didn't get that one county, that one, I think it was one vote, right? He got there. I think it actually was a
Yeah,
single.
I'm sorry, maybe it is one vote. It would be 269 and push him to
Yeah, it
270.
could have been 269 to 269. Yeah, in
Yeah,
Nebraska, Trump got 4, Biden got 1.
got one. Yeah,
That stopped the tie, the possible tie.
that's very interesting. Very
Definitely,
interesting.
it is amazing how the road to this it works and how one state flipping just could change it all.
And look at Nevada. I mean, that's one that can make or break things. I mean, it keeps Trump alive, really. If he loses all three of, like I said, if he loses Michigan, Wisconsin, and Nevada, it's all over. It's literally all over. But
Yeah, literally,
yeah,
like it's coming down to the wire right now. It's 238 to 213.
yeah. And this is going to be a drawn out process, and I think we both agree on that. It's not just going to end when they say, okay, all the votes are counted, and this is what we think. There's going to be revotes in Michigan and Wisconsin, states that are close like that. Depending on how Georgia or North Carolina comes out, very well could be there too. Same with
That
Pennsylvania, maybe. And it's odd because all these states that are having the recounts are the ones that are the real battleground states. And you'd think that they'd kind of set up the infrastructure to know, well, these are going to be the ones that we really need to know. So let's make sure we can
we've always
pump
been
the
talking
the
about it.
results. I mean, that like, and this with New York, they're going to be counting ballots for some, a month, right? Month and a half, maybe. California the same way, but they don't need, that's not as big of an issue. There's a lot of people that they would have to put a lot of infrastructure in place to do it all throughout the country. But, things like places like New York, like California. On the flip side, you think of, Arkansas, places like that, Kentucky, Kansas, where it's like, all right, and some of those have been up for grabs a little bit in recent, but Arkansas never, Louisiana really never. Places like that on both sides, you don't really need the infrastructure, but the middle of the road places, the places in the belt where we're going to need answers quickly. Uh, you know, I just can't fathom why we don't have the infrastructure in place to get it done. It's a disservice to all American people on both sides. People on the right want answers, people on the left want an answer, and they want an accurate, correct answer quickly. We don't want to be hanging around like this
I mean,
is.
I think a lot of that definitely has to come down to money and taxes and like no doubt, like New York, we pay a lot of taxes. California, they pay a lot of taxes. Like
Listen, and I don't.
you get
My
whipped.
thing is my biggest thing is, and when you voted, I don't know what you experienced, but when I voted, I walked in, I got my ticket, my name, number, or name, address, date of birth, got my ticket, walked to another lady, got my ballot, went to the thing, filled it out, turned around, walked up to a machine, put it in, and it said, "Zoop, ballot cast," and that was that. I walked out. It took me probably 3 minutes. I went in and knew who I was voting for in each category. I knew what I was voting for, and that's just how everybody should be. You should be having research and not just swiping across the line in one direction, actually do the research. But aside from that, I mean, I put it in a machine, boom, it's cast, gone. Vote counts. Just like the New York State test. It's when you're in high school or any state test or the regions, the SATs, just pop it in the machine and it's.
Why isn't every state like that?
That's yeah.
I mean,
it's not
I get that some states have to count the absentee ballots and whatnot, and I totally understand that. But I'm sure some of this voting has to do with them physically counting. Or remember back in the day, I don't know if you remember when you were younger, the machines where you would click.
Flip yep. You go. For us, it was just going in with our mom and dad.
Yep, exactly. It wasn't voted that, when I was voting, this is actually pretty wild. I don't know if me and you spoke about this, but so you know how you go in, you scan your card, and then they print out your ballot, and that ballot's like linked to you somehow, like through that barcode on that card. So now you keep your card too. They didn't like take your card, they scanned it, gave it back to you, and they gave you your ballot. So got my ballot. Now the printer was messed up, and the top barcode wasn't 100% printed. It was lightly printed. It was there. But so now there was about 20 people in front of me that had this problem and about 20 people behind me that had this same problem. And now I swear to God, the 3 printers they had in this place all started doing it at the same exact time. So the lady's trying to scan in, like the people were at that machine scanning it in, like you were saying, and it was saying vote invalid, like it wasn't going through. So the lady comes in over from the election lady working the poll comes over. She goes, all right, so everyone hand in your ballots. We're going to enter them manually at the end of the night. Enter them manually?
That. Yeah. No, just fix the machine.
Now the 20 people in front of me, they took her word on that. I got up there. One man even made a joke. He said, you promise? And then like
naive folks.
Exactly. I went up there. I said, sweetheart, I said, it's nothing against you. I know you're just the messenger, but I'll come back at 9:00 if that's when you're going to enter them, and I'll bring you my ballot back and watch you enter it. And she was like, you can't leave with the ballot. And I told her, watch me. But moral of the story is I made them print me a new ballot. And the 20 people behind me, because I did this, they were like, I want new ballots. So our votes got counted. And for the fact that people actually just took their word, that really surprised me. I'm not going to lie.
And that's something everybody needs to think about, and just I think as entrepreneurs in general, we're to the complete opposite, where you're just on your toes thinking about everything that is going to punch you in the face or could punch you in the face or could screw you over in any way. But I think a large problem with what's happening in America is people are becoming too naive. They don't want to do the research for themselves. They're complacent and naive. Yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah, they're just okay with, like, I don't know what happened to when like people, that this is what I mean by people rely on government so much. Like they think like there's all this big plan. Like there's not. You can make your own way in the world. Like at one point there wasn't a government. Like people just made their way in the world and they did their thing. People showed up in America and they created towns and villages and economies. Like and then obviously governments form from economies. They always do. There always will be some form of government.
And it has to do, it's the same thing, like you talk about like just, big international unions and stuff like that. And it's like, we don't need somebody to sit in a chair and to manage all the governments of the world and make sure they're doing, if everybody, in terms of if each government is doing, is putting their country first, so China should be putting their country first, Iran should be putting the US should be putting their country first, and doing business that way, then things are going to work a lot more smooth and a lot more people are going to benefit. And
absolutely,
on the lower end of that, you take it down a notch, and if every person has their self-interest or their family's best interest in mind, and they're doing things to satisfy those interests, then things are going to work more smoothly and a lot more people are going to benefit on both sides. It's not, people think that, when you're looking out for yourself or your family, you're giving things up on the other side, or you got to be some dick or something like that in the end. And it's like, if everybody were to worry about themselves and drive their car and change the lane when they need to be changed when it was open, you see the pictures of the video of the cars going all different directions, crazy, and it's all smooth, and it's because you're just head down and driving. It's something.
I
But like
literally
I
just
said, as
saw
entrepreneurs, all of us
that.
have, but it's some people just don't have it, and there's a lot of people that don't have it. That's why there's a lot of employees and less employers in this world.
Definitely, definitely. Like you said, that has to do with those people that are willing to just hand those ballots in, and they're like, okay. It's like when a boss tells me you're gonna get. That's one thing that's always fascinated me. Imagine like you work a job, right?
Mm-hmm.
You make X amount of dollars. It's your living wage, and then one day, like just because your boss decided to go out to Vegas and blow his fortune, closes down. He doesn't pay you that Friday. Like it's all over. It's done. It's gone. You know what I mean? Like some little business that has like 4 or 5 employees, but some lady that's worked there for 25 years, like mad, like having
Very
no,
naive again. It's just
yeah,
very naive.
like
Let's flip directions now. I mean, we could probably touch back. We got plenty to talk about, and we'll
no
think
doubt
of
we kind
more.
of got off topic
And
there for
and
sure. We've been
no,
rolling.
no, and that's what we're here to do.
Yeah,
Get deep dives into things. But in talking about founders and entrepreneurs, let's flip to Jack Ma and the Ant Group, and maybe a little Jack Dorsey. So Ant Group, we talked about it on Friday, and everything was looking good. And what was it, Monday they opened up, or was it yesterday? It was Monday, right? And
yeah, but now they're suspended
the
trading.
Shanghai listing was suspended. Jack Ma and his henchmen are getting called into the CCP's boardroom, and they're questioning them on suspicion of fraud. Um, and what was looking like the biggest IPO ever is now looking like it's not gonna have an initial
Possibly not
offering.
happening.
Yeah, it's what are you thinking?
Well, one, Jack Ma, he's definitely a hard worker. We've discussed this. He's a hard worker.
Grinds,
Man,
yeah.
grinds. But he definitely Alibaba. They took their business model from Amazon, no doubt. He
Question.
said, "Let me get you the item as quick as possible. Build a network of systems." Look, they even created the Singles Day
Mm-hmm.
with like their version of Black Friday, so they could cash out too,
Mm-hmm.
and which is very smart of him. But he took his second idea now from Jack Dorsey, like you were saying. It's basically a cash app from what I've read. It's financial payments. He's banking for people. It's more of a Square than a cash app. Let me rephrase that, because he's also small business transactions, credit card transactions, kind of encompassing it all. Which really, I think like we were discussing, scares the Chinese government, because now
Yeah,
they're
it's the root of why they're putting a charge to it. And I mean, it's a direct punchback at Ma, because he said that he's coming for the he said if the Chinese banking system isn't going to change, well then we'll change. We'll change banking. And the reality of it is the Chinese government's controlling their banking system, and that's how they keep their handle on the rest of the greater Chinese economy.
yeah.
It has been for years, and Jack Ma coming in and threatening them with that, they're not going to put up with that. That's how business is carried out in China. We talk all the time, and Neo is another company, and in my line of work, I get a lot of questions, especially from some younger guys. With all these Robinhood traders going crazy these days. Oh, what are you thinking about Neo? They love Neo. They
Neo's
say,
been around for
yeah,
years too, bro. Like, have you
the
looked at
Chinese
it?
government knows they got to compete with Tesla, and they do it with every firm that's got to compete with the big American version. They're pumping money into it. So you're probably not going to see a ton of pullback in the near term, because they're just going to continue to pump money in it so they can compete. And there's just no question about it. But that's why I dislike, especially the Chinese market. But a lot of foreign markets, they just don't work like the U.S. markets work.
Yeah, but to touch on your point there, I
Yeah,
think
that's down a rabbit hole. So go back to that. Yeah.
they Neo, and I think that's one of those companies that they stole another one. I think Trump. It's one of those things Trump said he was going to go after that I didn't really see a lot of progress on, was um like copyright infringement and stuff of that nature.
Hmm.
Protecting our ideas, our American ideas, but specifically like Tesla, how they literally just copied Tesla, made a company, threw it on the exchange, and now they're pumping it. And I guarantee you, they're cashing out every time that thing pumps 40, 50% in a day because it does have days like that. It's a wild stock. Been watching it for like probably 2.5 years at this point, at least.
Yeah,
At least. And it can go from like 25 cent or $1 stock to $6 to 12 and then back down to 2. Like it's one
and
of
that's
those
the
wild.
thing. I don't think a lot of people. China is I call it capitalistic communism. So it's communism. They're choosing who are going to be the entrepreneurs, who are going to be the successful firms. And the owners of the firms are getting compensated handsomely, and there's people making lots of money, but the people who are deciding which companies are going to be good is not the products themselves or the services themselves. It's
Not
the
a free
government on the
market.
back end a lot of times.
Definitely, it's not a free market, and what comes with that is you're not going to get the best products. You're not going to get the best innovation. It's not going to happen. The
That's
market,
and
the invisible hand of the market provides all.
people have and will always continue to create things, and that's where the real profit centers are going to be in the
Sure.
best creators. Think about who are the richest people now. They're not uh, 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 you know
Even YouTubers, they
they're
create.
creators. They're not even in that sense. Musk, he's a creator.
Oh, no,
Bezos,
I
creator.
know what you
Gates,
meant. I know what you
creator.
meant as a creator
Yeah,
of business,
yeah,
but even in the sense of a YouTuber, that's why they make so much money because they create content, and
great
people
content.
love it. They eat it up.
Yeah,
Like what is it?
uh,
That kid, there's that kid that reviews toys. He made like what, like 12 billion last year. He
yeah, like
like
a 3-year-old kid or something like that, right?
yeah, him and his brother, like it's dumb. They're set. They're set for life, which is
Yeah,
nice.
I
Good for them.
mean, there's just so much money in this stuff, and it's incredible. People are going out there and getting it.
It's the reach of the world nowadays. Think about it in like 25 years ago, right? You could only reach so many people near you. Well, I mean, obviously, you could take out TV ads, you could take out radio ads, you could take out newspaper ads, but like it required a large budget. Like I'm talking like golden age of advertisement, like the Mad Men. You needed a large company to be able to advertise like that. Now, anyone can do it. You can reach everybody. It's just so easier to build a big market and create wealth for yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I think we both have a lot of ideas and little different things that we start up. And I know one thing that anytime I'm starting something new, it's you come up with a name or whatever, and what's the first thing you're doing? And everybody that I advise with, business owners, entrepreneurs that are creating new things, what's the first thing you do? You create a Twitter with it, so you can at least start to pump some content out there, pump some little tweets out there to draw traffic to your ultimate business. And it's
Yeah,
just so people don't realize how easy. It's so easy to do. It's just so easy to do, and it's so effective in the
yeah.
same breath.
But even I'm talking like even in the just it's so cheap now. It's so cheap. Like
Yeah,
Twitter's free,
great.
and then even compared to that, like imagine having to pay someone to make you a commercial in the 1980s and then run it on TV. Now you could just put your
Just go
picture up of
live.
your product, yeah, or put your picture up of your product, pay Facebook 25 $50, and they'll pump it out to 1,000 people that already have interest that they know like your type of product. Like you're not even hitting people that aren't for your product. You're hitting people on the net. You're hitting the nail on the head already. It's just amazing. The world has changed. The game has changed.
Always changing. All right, what do you want to touch on next? You want to continue on with the markets? Maybe talk some outlook given each candidate
Definitely.
was to win.
Definitely.
So let's talk about the J.P. Morgan article. I mean, they put out, this was yesterday before any states had reported. They had said our prediction of markets given a Biden victory is the S&P would fall to around 2,500, and given a Trump victory, it would rise to around 3,900. So that's a big swath in each direction, larger on the downside than on the upside is what they're thinking. And
big
I mean,
range.
now that we're looking back and we're seeing that the Senate didn't flip as blue, or didn't flip blue at all, uh, like we thought it was. The House didn't gain as many seats on the blue side as we thought it was. Do you think JP really foresaw that, yesterday, and assumed that given a Biden victory, there would be a deadlock within the Congress that would hold up any bills, and given Trump would win, then they'd be able to get things passed because they held um, not the majority in either, but held very tight, so they would have some room to push through. What do you think now that we're looking back?
Um, so I'm thinking 25 to 39, huge range, to be honest. Huge. I'm thinking 25 is worst case scenario if we have total lockup. No idea what's going on with the election. Like comes January and we still don't know. Like we're fighting courts.
What do you think? What do you think with lockdowns then? But we'll continue to kind of peel back the onion here. What do you think with the lockdowns going forward?
Are we talking about COVID lockdowns or I don't
Yeah.
think we're locking down again. We're not locking down again.
No, even though states like Massachusetts are shutting down, 6 to 6.
Yeah, I know they just came out with the whole nightly lockdown order, but I just don't. I don't see the country going that route again.
To me, that's just absolutely it's heinous. I mean, and they'll say, "Oh, we're trying to stop people unnecessarily going out, this, that, and the other thing." Like it's coronavirus is afraid of the dark or something like this, or like some terrified little kid. Or the reality is, more people are going out unnecessarily while it's still light out, probably, than anywhere else. I mean, we've already shown that we can work virtually if needed. So, I think, and to your point, you said we don't necessarily need to lock down again. I'm saying I would agree. Why can't we just go back to work? And then when there's outbreaks here, there, just like schools, all right, we've got a couple of students. We're going to go online now for a couple of weeks. We've already built the infrastructure, the idea and like the experience of doing it online is already there a bit. So it's easier to transition back to online and then be able to transition back into work or into school. There comes a point where, and I think all of us know it, and I think that, Americans are getting to that point too. And this has nothing to do with who's going to win. Well, I guess it does have a little bit to do, but I think, regardless of who Americans vote for, the majority of Americans are thinking we need to get back to work and we need to do it ASAP. Even if getting back to work as a full economy means some people doing things online whenever there's outbreaks, this, that, and the other thing, but everything's got to get moving here.
Yeah, I think that definitely ties into that 2,500. If let's say we have a Congress and a president of the same party, whether it be red or blue, and they decide there's needed of a lockdown, because then there's going to be no stopping it. Like if there's no stopping it and someone decides there's a lockdown, and that could be a possible 2,500 scenario where it's.
I mean, the airlines are coming back in no strong form, and don't expect to. Business travel is completely private now, especially with things like FlexJet, those things coming in. So not only are you not getting the actual travel, but businesses are probably no longer going with the
not even business
their business flight credit cards and stuff like that are paying you interest, because the credit on business accounts is much more than personal flying credits. Families aren't flying anywhere. They're going to drive.
Yeah. Well, not even that. What is it called? I was gonna say even the commercial, not just the commercial, the regular passenger jets, they've lost people. Look at for example, our friend Austin. He when this was all going on, his dad said, "We're not taking JetBlue down to Florida right now. Like, I don't know how they clean these planes." He said, "Let me pony up one time and just rent the plane," because he knows it's going to be properly cleaned. And I'm sure he's not the only one who's been doing this the whole time. I'm sure there's other people that would have normally have taken a regular flight that have said, "You know what? I have a little extra money lying around. Screw it. I'm going to take the private jet so that I'm going to rent it for it so that I know me and my family are safe. Everything's clean, nice."
Yeah. Great. And then you talk about the restaurants. I mean, what are they? It's 40 degrees out in New York now. What are you going to do? You can't continue to outdoor dine.
Well, did you see that? Hold on. They said you can have a tent. They said you can have a tent with a heater outside, with doors and windows and the whole 9 yards, like a tent that has walls outside, but you can't be inside. You might as well be inside. Like,
same thing.
It makes no
probably
sense.
Worse. It's probably worse.
None of it's routed in science. They've just decided they made things that sounded good in their head, That's what I don't like. Is it sounds nice. You know what I mean? Like it sounds like it's gonna save people. Like, but we don't know. We don't know if it's
I
gonna
like
save.
socialism.
It could be worse. What if that heater is pushing the virus around into everyone's face and eyes the whole time while you're sitting there eating? You don't know. I don't know. Like
Yeah, you don't know at
we're
all.
gonna find out though. We're gonna find out. That's for sure. If the second wave comes back hard, we will find out. Which it seems like it is picking up, no doubt. Like there's no denying that. It seems like a lot more cases are coming back up,
Mhm.
hospitalizations, but I don't know if we'll ever see the full pandemonium that we saw in April, March.
Well, we're better prepared now. I mean,
Definitely. No, for sure, for sure. But I think some of these other states that didn't get hit, like New York, California got hit, they're due for a rude awakening, possibly.
yeah. Let's talk. Let's kind of flip a little bit and back into the markets, but let's talk real estate markets. So, a lot of mass migration out of cities as a result of this. Whenever anything happens, 9/11, the same thing. People left all the big cities. Uh, Coronavirus, people leave the big cities. It's been happening for years. People, when something happens, they flee out to what they think is better pastures. I think we might have differing views on this, but I can see and understand where you come from this. Me personally, I think that over the next 30 years, especially with the advent of the technology, people are only going to be going into the office 2-3 days a week maybe. And those spots 45 minutes to an hour and 20 minutes outside of the big population centers of New York City, San Francisco, Chicago, all these, somewhere an hour and a half to 45 minutes out from the workplace where they can work from home, with their family, with the extra bedroom, the extra acre, and the nice white fence. And then they're going to swallow the pill and drive in for the 2 to 3 days a week. I think you see it a little different, so I'll kind of flip it to you, and then we'll get into
I mean,
chat.
no, I definitely agree with you because you know what? That's all Long Island is for the most part. So, like, I agree with you, and I think areas around cities will thrive. But I also don't ever see the cities not coming back due to the fact that, like, for example, when you're in the city, you can get every type of different type of Brazilian food there is. You can get like even the fusion foods, you know what I mean, where it's like two cultures mixed together. You could basically get every single culture. You could find like Zimbabwe food in the city. It's just a cultural center with the so no matter what, I believe people will always be drawn back to there will always be a group of young people with money who are ready to come in and fill the spots. And there's
Yeah,
always that.
and I think if when we continue it, we're kind of getting into like a existential question, some philosophy type things. But I mean, and also history, but forever. I mean, since the dawn of time, recorded history, um, people, civilizations have maybe spread out at times, but always been drawn back to the population center. So that's why I say I can understand where you're coming from. I see a kind of a split
Definitely,
though in
technology is
how
making.
the future is going because of the technology and because of the experience. It had always been a thing. We're going to move virtual. It's going to cost us less. We're going to have to keep less infrastructure in house. We're going to have to pay for less office space. This, that, and the other thing. You've seen a lot of the micro office space. We're going to rent office space for a couple months out of this stop, and then we're going to rent it for a couple months out of this stop. Different stuff like that. But nobody ever wanted to jump really dive right into it. You know what I'm saying? You always need a pioneer, and with this, it was kind of like forced pioneering. It's like if a tsunami came when the pioneer, before the pioneers had moved west and
Yeah.
drown the east, you're forced to kind of go off and try this and go, well, California's kind of beautiful. So it's the same type of thing. We were forced into this, and I think it's kind of caused a little bit of a split. But I also there is a part of me that also does think, and understand because I'm you know huge follower of history and the evolution of how the civilization has come about. It kind of fascinates me in my nerd sense, but it's something that has always happened. But is this, when people say, what's the new normal? I've always said, no, stop with that. I don't want to hear this. But there are some elements where it's like, now that
There
we've dipped our
definitely is.
toe in the water's getting a little bit warmer.
No, definitely. I agree. And you know what? I think this is good for a lot of other parts of the country because I think there will be a lot of smaller economies that they're going to get a lot of big money earners that are working virtually from there that are
It's
going to
true.
bring, but
You can
in,
see, and especially as 5G becomes more prevalent, and we can kind of talk about the 5G a little bit, but in some of
definitely,
these, very rural areas where, you're not being able to work remotely as efficiently because of connectivity, different things like that, as 5G sweeps across the country, from what they say, and I'm not the expert, you're more of an expert on the 5G than I, but these
yeah,
parts of the country, you're going to be able to do whatever you need to do from
the
from
5G, exactly. When the
the
5G
vast
comes,
majority of anywhere.
when it's truly installed, like people think, like some people think they have 5G now, like they don't have 5G, like how 5G is going to be. Once the grid is completely installed, it's going to be 100 times faster than it is now. This camera quality between us will be nothing. You know what I mean?
Nothing,
Like
yeah.
the internet will be able to just handle so much more than it can handle now. Literally, it's going to be you're going to be driving home. Michaela's going to open up the fridge. She probably won't even have to open up the fridge. She'll probably walk over to the fridge. It's going to say, Michaela, you're out of milk. And then if she's going to say, text Sean, and the fridge is going to text you, pick up
Oh, I
milk
know.
at
There's
home.
already, I mean, it's
I mean,
already
it's already
happened.
starting. It's already starting, but on that sphere, like everybody's gonna have it. You know what I mean? Like the system will be able to handle every single person having
Yeah,
that type of internet running at once.
that's what we hope. I mean, so far the
Hopefully,
first, reveals of it have been a little bit shaky. But I think we're both believers that when the everything's going to have its bumps in the road early on, but once it shakes out, 5G is going to be a good thing. Also a dangerous thing though. We have to be aware of what's going on, and the ease of accessibility of everybody's information and such when working with 5G. Um, yeah, so I think we really got to be careful,
data
but also
privacy,
try to move it along as quick as possible.
data privacy is gonna be a big thing in the next upcoming, if not this election, the election after, for
This
sure.
election meaning this year's or meaning
No,
2024?
no, the next presidential one, like
Yeah,
yeah, but either
yeah,
because data privacy is I'm seeing I'm starting to see the stirs around like the internet of people starting to complain about like we need a way to control our own data. So I
yeah.
could I could see that becoming a hot topic across America because if there was a way for say for me and you to own and monetize our own data, just our own data, like then in a way everyone could earn a live. You know what I mean? Like I almost believe
Doing
there is
nothing.
a
Yeah.
way for a UBI almost, but not from the government. You know what I mean? For
Mhm.
private industries paying like, but you wouldn't have to give your information out. You don't have to take it. I could let McDonald's know that I like to order McNuggets and they could pay me $2.50 a week for giving that information or whatever it is, and
Yeah.
then add it up between all these different corporations that already have my information to begin with. And if they had to
But
pay me for that data, and that was everybody.
and
But then
again,
again,
that's the
that would
that's
work.
the
That'd be a lot of money. That'd be a lot of money. I don't know how that would work,
that's the
but
efficient way to go because I mean the like you said UBI, that's the worst.
can't have it from the government. Can't have it from the
No,
government.
no, no. It's not going to work. It's coming out of you're going to have to pay twice as much for that out of your own pocket than you would as a business owner who would be someone who's buying the data would have to pay. It's efficient, but it also puts money in people's pockets for simple tasks or doing really nothing, um,
Definitely. And the
and
people who
it
didn't
allows them to
have
pump it right
to,
back into the economy.
and the people who could afford to not give out their data just wouldn't. Because why would you?
Yeah, or maybe they would be. Why
Maybe
not?
they would.
If
Exactly.
to some
Exactly.
companies, if it's truly you're going to pay me $2.50 to tell you I like McNuggets. Now, obviously, the data they're buying is
Different.
far different than that, but there's
But
people buying data
that
like
is
that
still
as
some
well,
data.
and
Like
there's people willing to pay for data like that as well. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Your Uber Eats account is literally just getting sold to companies so they can push you ads on the food that you buy.
Without a doubt. And let's talk about Uber because Proposition 22 uh, was on the ballot yesterday, and the people of California voted to keep the independent contractor status of Uber
Nice,
and Lyft
nice.
drivers throughout the state. So looks like Uber won't be taken off anytime soon. Um,
Very nice. You love to
it's
see that.
probably it's probably their best market, other than I mean maybe New York City, but I would say with the multitude of big cities in California, I don't know the data right off the top of my head, but
Definitely, it's
Just
got to
and
be.
also from personal experience being in California, like I've told you, there is more Ubers than there is people looking for Ubers around there in all the cities in California. They're flying around. There more Uber drivers than homeless people, and there's a lot of homeless people. So
I'm sure they, what do you call it? I'm sure they're headquartered in California, like the rest of the big tech. So,
yep.
I, yeah, I'm
I
sure
think
it's
it's a big thing for the entirety of the gig economy though, because it would have been the first domino to fall, and a lot of these gig economy jobs would have become contract employees after that.
they
And
have to
you know,
protect the gig economy. They have to.
they have to, and it's the gig economy is flip side, like you had talked about last time on the last episode. Um, just think about the cost in healthcare and benefits that it would cost businesses. So as entrepreneurs, you don't have to set up those types of plans. And we're talking bigger firms, but either way, firms don't have to set up those big plans or cost themselves all that money. And by doing so, they can pay the independent contractors better, which puts more money into people's pockets and puts more back into the economy on the flip side. And if you think on the opposite side of that, because the companies aren't, paying for this, people can go out there and they can get better deals on benefits and stuff like that through personally buying the benefits than they're getting screwed what they do in the group plans a lot of the times. And people don't really know that, but the majority of the time, because it costs companies so much, you're getting screwed by taking group benefits. Now there are some exceptions to the rule, but if you can go out there and get the benefits yourself, you can probably get better deals
For sure.
by and large. Yeah.
But yeah, it is it's, I think it's great that they kept the gig economy, because not even on the big corporation level. I'm just thinking even on the small level, like
Mhm.
um for some dude, like let's say he's a architect or something and he needs something done, he's not hiring a plumber to come onto his payroll for the week.
Mhm.
He's hiring he's contracting it out. Like you can't, you just, there's so many other implications of that. Like there's always been this not gig economy, but these contractors, you know what I mean? Like even in
Yeah.
just the construction world, contractors, the word, like
And
people
even
contract jobs out, and you can't be hiring these people and paying them benefits for
yeah.
to have to do a job for a month for you. Like no, like you're gonna pay them their money and they're gonna do the job, contract it.
Yeah, and I
Exactly.
think it's especially with technology, and obviously Uber and Lyft are tech companies as much as they are transportation companies, if not more so. So that kind of brings prevalence to it. But think about things like uh, what is it, Fiverr or these sites where you can go on there and do freelance work. You just sign up with your profile, and it changes that entire environment. There's people that are making a lot of money on the side, using their professional services. They might be, a tax director for PwC, but they have their CPA. They're doing well and working with the firm and liking it. But they're posting their ability to do personal returns on Fiverr or whatever the little site may be. And now all of a sudden, Fiverr's got to be cutting these people a check out of their pocket, and the people who are getting the services have to pay Fiverr. It's no longer getting a personal service from somebody who's a professional to do the job. In that scenario, it's exactly the same as going to H&R Block. And the reason that people aren't doing the go to H&R Block is because that's not what they're looking for. They're looking for something more personal, something who's a little bit more technical and better. But it kind of normalizes all skills, and it's right along the lines with what California loves is the Kamala Harris quote. I mean, it was shocking yesterday that we're better off if everybody ends up at the same place. And it's just like, I mean, what kind
Yeah.
of statement? What kind of statement is that?
What it literally no one like it it's just, how is that possible? I logically, I can't reason with a person who sees that as possible, because it's
I would
just not.
agree. I
It's
agree.
just
And we do need, we got to get we do, we're looking, we got to get a lefty, or a left leaning, person to make a third here to make the trio, because I think, both of us, align with a lot of their views, and it would be nice to have somebody on the flip side, playing devil's advocate. So, hopefully that'll be soon. What do you want to move to? Maybe terror attacks in France now?
yeah, I was actually just reading something about that. They're worried about copycats because they just found another man walking through like one of their parks right in the middle of Paris with a machete. So there and ISIS took responsibility for the past couple ones and threw some.
Multiple of them, yeah. And just over the past couple of weeks, there's been uh, a multitude in France, and I think maybe one outside of France, but just in the past 2 or 3 weeks. And this is all over the world. And you see other things like Belarus. There, people are marching on the royal palace or whatever it may be. Um, they're coming there. It seems like it all happens at the same time. Whereas the whole world is kind of pushing back on different people and different things. And just a wild time, I'll say.
Definitely. The France has been having a lot of problems with terrorism and whatnot, and that's why I think a lot of these EU countries are fed up of just letting people in from wherever. One country takes refugees, Italy takes 100,000 refugees, and then they can just move freely throughout Europe. People are starting to get a little pissed. They're tired of getting macheted in the street. Like I would
Dude,
be
and
too.
this goes back to, and uh, you know, what's her name there? Tulsi Gabbard. That was she's a Democrat. She ran for office and
Hawaii,
has plenty of good ideas, but she's a war vet, and her main thing is, oh, we don't need to be
but
playing nation building overseas and this, that, and the other thing. And to an extent, I agree with that. We don't need to be just running in nation building, but um, the world is stronger when we're going in there and taking people out, that are committing things like that. Like, I think a lot of it comes back to ignoring warning signs. I mean, there's plenty of warning signs for years. I mean, ISIS kills people on camera, putting it on YouTube and saying,
every
we're coming to kill you. It's like, you, ignoring the signs. What are you talking about? Obviously, they're ignoring
you
these
can
signs.
find the weekly killings of ISIS on the internet. The weekly, like they do a little montage of like this week's killings, like beheadings and lighting people on fire and shooting them in the face.
And
Like
it's the idea, of
it's
if
not even
not us, then who? And if you're going to go to war, you got to accept that there's going to be casualties on your side and civilians on in the whatever country you're going into. Um, but the decision has to be made at some point where you know, and this is the
yeah,
thing, and I have many friends that are in the military or former military, and there's not a person that puts that uniform on. That if you asked, and it's surprised. That's why I was so stunned that Tulsi Gabbard's one of them, because the people that I know, and I come from military high school as well, and everybody that I encounter in the military who puts that uniform on would drop anything and be more than willing to go into Iraq per se and take out ISIS, different things like that, and you have to. I mean, you have to destroy. Do you are you familiar with Jocko Willink?
no, I'm not. No, I'm not.
He's a former SEAL guy, is wild. He's up at like 4:30 in the morning, crushing workouts. I mean, he is a sicko, interesting dude. Uh, Very good outlook on the world, but he was in Iraq multiple times, right in Ramadi, and the worst of it in 2006 or 2008, whichever it was.
Jeez.
Um, um, but his outlook is, we are waiting on another 9/11 by not doing anything about this and seeing it all take place. And more people are going to die from that complacency than would if we really went in there and ran a proper campaign and
And
completely destroyed it.
yeah, no, definitely. It's the Middle East is a wild place though. Like they've just been fighting for thousands of years. I really
Yeah,
don't like
it,
getting involved.
it does appear, and I do follow a lot of the guys who are in that war, because those two Middle Eastern wars do fascinate me to no end, because of the fact that it's people who have just been battling. It's
Yeah,
the original civilizations were in that area, and they've just been banging it out for all of time.
forever,
And
forever.
you know,
And
it's a whole different world. You know what I'm saying?
literally, they have there's just different views over there than what we
It
have
does
here.
appear that the young people are changing now. It does kind of appear that they
No, definitely in
it's
some
going to
countries,
take generations. You're not going to change the older folks. You
but
got
in
to
some
go
of
into
these,
the
but in some of these countries that have different religions, for example, like these Muslim countries, they're never going to be all, at least most of them will never be all right with just seeing a video of, like, for example, all American 23, 24-year-olds in the clubs hammered. They would see
Yeah.
that as disgusting. They don't even drink in their countries. Like,
Well, I mean,
so like I
Iran
understand
was that way
that
at one point. Iran
what?
was that way. Eh,
No, Iran was a cultural civilization. There's still these other places, but a lot of these Muslim countries you can't even drink in, you know? Like,
But it's yeah, and that's another thing that, and I think it was Jocko that brought it up that I had mentioned. The idea that, and this is somewhere where I disagree with Trump pretty strongly. He's trying to bring everybody back, and the fact is, you can't just go in there, take out whatever enemy it is, and then here you go. You guys got
leave.
freedom. Have a good one.
Yeah.
It's like never letting your kid drink, and then at 28 going, all right, here's a 30 rack, get after it. The kid is going to act there. The 20-year-old is going to act like an absolute fool. He's going to
Mhm.
blow himself up and have a terrible night. Whereas if you sat him down when he was 17 or 18, here, have a couple sips of this. 20, you have to slowly spoon feed freedom to these people over time. You can't just
Yeah.
throw it all on them once. They have no
There
idea.
can't be a vacuum for
By,
power because
yeah,
people are gonna,
by pulling people out when they don't know how to live within a free society, then it's gonna boop, flip right back to what it was before. And every time we've pulled troops out of Afghanistan, every time we pulled troops out of Iraq, the same thing always happens. And it's the same people. Uh, ISIS is the same people that was the Islamic Guard in Iraq for Saddam before that, was the same people who was Al Qaeda in Iraq before that. It's the same people over and over and over again. And they're just going to come back as something different unless you literally stomp them out in full and then continue to. It takes a long process. It's not something that you can just pull out of.
they need to, yeah, we need to stay there and help them build democracy, a new government.
Exactly, like I said, you have to spoon feed it slowly and build it. You don't become a body or a world wrestling bodybuilder, world champion bodybuilder. I'm sorry, by lifting one or two times,
Yeah,
or just getting thrown into a
years.
gym. And especially, think of that, you throw them into a gym with absolutely no direction. Said you got a competition on Sunday, and you got to lift more than all these professional. You're going to blow up. You're not going to do it. It's
Yeah, not even getting handed a workout plan. You're just getting thrown in there and told, all right, get big.
Yeah, and as,
Like,
and as far as coming
you need
back
to learn the
to
process.
France, go ahead.
You need to learn the process. There's a
Yeah,
process to everything.
exactly. Everything's about process.
Hmm.
Going back to France a little bit, and the thing is, you see a lot of the machete attacks in France. They don't have guns. They don't have any guns. So it does bring up a Second Amendment type idea as to where, these people do live amongst us in America. I'm not naive enough to think that they don't exist in America.
Oh, they do. They
They do.
do.
Uh, but there's a question as to why does it not happen as much as it does elsewhere? And happening once is a horrible, terrible thing. But you have to question it in order to fix it in other places. Why does it not happen here as opposed to elsewhere? Um, what do you think?
I think it's because people are scared to get shot here. They know it's true. Look at all these people that have guns pulled out, like with the recent gun attacks where the person that is the first person to shoot at the
Yeah,
shooter, like the first person to start defending people is not a cop. It's a private citizen who happened to have a gun on him.
yeah. You're,
People,
for all those people that didn't have them, you're thanking God the day that you
but you
need
need it.
one. And Johnny Brave next to you was the guy who thought about it, purchased it, and then trained enough with it to be able to be proficient when the time was to come, if it ever came. But it speaks to preparation and everything. You got to act like you're going to get punched in the face. Murphy's law. Murphy's law.
Yep.
The worst thing that could happen is going to happen the second you don't think it's going to happen, and
Yep.
that's reality in every situation.
No doubt.
Especially as entrepreneurs, you got to be very aware of it.
Prepare for the worst, but hope for the best in
Always
everything.
always preparing for the worst. What are you thinking? You want to shift back and go back to maybe some election stuff? I was just thinking about it. I didn't have it written down, but I just thought, I don't know if you saw, Oregon legalizing all drugs for recreational use. What the hell is that about?
Oh, honestly, I saw you text me that, but I didn't really look into that at all. That is wild, and by all you mean all.
Yeah, I mean, all drugs. It's not going to be a place that I'm going to be taking my family at any time in the near future. I'll tell you that. It seems like that northwestern portion of the country is getting pretty wild up there. I mean,
All right, so I got an
and
article pulled up. So they're the first state to decriminalize. They decriminalized hard drugs like heroin and cocaine, possessions of small amounts. See what the official. Let's get some official numbers going on here. Okay, let's see. So 1 gram or less of heroin or MDA is now all right. 2 grams of coke or meth is all right. And under 12 grams of mushrooms is okay. And under 40 doses of LSD, Oxycontin, or methadone, totally okay. Well, not totally okay, but um,
criminal penalties for
you get
possession
a
of these amounts are replaced with a fine of up to
fine of up to
$100.
$100, and the fine can be waived if they're evaluated at the addiction recovery center.
What is the thought process? What's the idea behind this? And
Oh,
how does it get enough votes from a state as a whole, excuse me, to actually pass?
it's well, Oregon is one of those very left leaning
Well, of
states.
course, Portland is in Oregon, so you see Portland as the most left leaning city in the country, I would say. Um,
Yeah,
so it somewhat makes sense, and there's always been this idea, and there's
I mean, you know
people who
what?
talk about it all the time, where they think, oh well, when it's decriminalized, well, then there's not necessarily the jonesing to try it or to get into it. But also it deals with the matter that we don't need to be locking people up for these types of things. And whereas I think there's definitely some things on both sides as to whether or not people should be locked up for long periods of time for different types of things. And I think each situation is so vastly different, and that's why it's hard under the Constitution to write down in the Constitution what should happen with every case in every scenario, because they are so different. But I think that people, like I said, people do think this way, but the idea to just legalize it all is so drastic and so radical. It shocks me. It's stunning.
I mean, yo, I'm not gonna.
Go ahead. I mean, what do you
I
think?
don't disagree. Like it's shocking. I didn't think it would happen, but I think they're gonna be an experiment. Like, let it happen. Let's see, because at the end of the day, like, you're not really doing anything for locking someone up because they got caught with a bag of heroin on them. Like, you're locking them up for fucking a month, and then they're gonna come back out on the street where they were probably still doing heroin in jail, and they're just gonna go back to doing heroin anyway. So like,
No, and that's the part that I understand and say that it's definitely tough to kind of judge
and
just
that's
on
like a
a
lot of
case by
people.
case basis. But
Yeah. No, no,
but
definitely. And that's a lot of people, like, and a lot of different things. Like,
what
there's
what
always that chance, like, you
what
could
does
still
it
get.
what does it do to over time to young generations who grow up and see, well, it's not illegal. I mean,
I
you
mean,
think
like,
about, think
yo,
about
I think
alcohol.
a lot more
There's so
people
many
do.
alcohol abusers in the world, and it's
I think
because
so many people do
drug.
drugs that we don't even realize. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many people's parents and whatnot that were stoned off LSD and stoned off of all these shits that we didn't even realize when we were younger kids. And I think a lot of parents do drugs that and whatnot. So I think it's just gonna make it less of a stigma. So I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing. Yeah, but
Yeah, and it's something that and I know
because like
that
now at least like I'm saying, I think a lot of people do drugs and whatnot that have normal lives and everything. But if it starts to become more open, are they still going to be able to maintain? Because if you have to keep that level of secrecy, like you're not. If it's more open, are you
keeps
just
you
going to be
sharp between the ears when you got to maintain the secrecy, though.
exactly like you're not going to be doing it all the time? What happens if all of a sudden shrooms are legal and all of a sudden there's this dude that he liked to trip out on shrooms once a month? Still a good guy, good family man, and now next thing you know he's tripping out on shrooms once a week, and now he's getting divorced, and so there's definitely
It's a very fine
different. There's a fine
we
line.
probably
There's a
fall
fine line.
on opposite sides of it. Uh, Listen, beautiful place. And this is something actually that it kind of speaks to your point a little bit, I guess. But Pablo Escobar, I can't think of his name. It's a different name now. But he said in many interviews, and they've asked him, oh, did you do drugs? Did you try this, that, and the other thing? And he said, no, I never really did. And what it came down to was my father kind of sat me down when I was young, told me about each one, told me what they would do should you use them, and said, don't ever do this by yourself. If you were to want to do it, come to me and we'll do it. And not an approach that I would ever take, or nor do I do anything crazy like that.
Yeah.
But he said, generally because it wasn't so taboo, I was just like, yeah, I'm good. I don't really need to. I'm
Yeah.
fine. And so
No, definitely, because there's that adrenaline rush. You know
yeah,
what I mean?
but not everybody does think that way. And I mean, this beautiful place, beautiful, a lot of beautiful stuff out there in Oregon, just in terms of nature, but not somewhere where I'm going to be going for many reasons for a long time. Let me tell you that.
No, most definitely. I will not be in Oregon anytime soon. But from the article you got up right now, it looks like a lot of states are starting to do drug. Look at this is the legalization of cannabis down here. 11
Mhm.
states. How
Well,
many states were voted on that yesterday? Do you happen to know?
maybe 6 or 7, something like that. I don't know. I think it's going to be up to the 20-ish range, 25
Wow,
total states.
pretty wild, honestly. Remember when it was zero? Remember when Oregon? I mean, not Oregon. Colorado was the first one coming in, like for recreational.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because
Oh,
what do you call it? California had that. They had medical marijuana for a while. California.
yeah,
It was
they did.
like I think 1998. So they're really on the forefront of that.
Yeah.
But the full drug spectrum, you're right. That is kind of it's gonna be different. If that went all over the country, I think you would see some crazy stuff going on.
Without a doubt. What else do you have on mind? What else do you want to touch on today? Then maybe go through a couple quick things, just a little bit of election stuff again, and then wrap it up here. So what do you think? You got anything on your mind any topics?
How about this rally in Bitcoin?
Yeah, big rally. Might have overtaken gold as the safe. I don't know
I
how
don't know
safe.
about overtaking gold just
Taking
because gold has a $7 trillion market cap, I think it is, or like 6 trillion. Bitcoin's at
No,
like 250 billion. So we
I
got
just
a lot.
wanted to hear that come out of your mouth because I know
No,
uh,
I love Bitcoin though. I love
you're
it.
like
Don't get me
Sagashi
wrong.
Yoko or whatever his name is there.
Yeah, Satoshi.
Satoshi Yoko. Yeah.
But no,
Yep.
definitely. I think Bitcoin has really hit a turning point in the way that the markets have. The market could be down and Bitcoin's still going up. Like it's a beautiful. We just passed 14,000 for the first time in years. When we crossed over 13,000, it was the first time in not this time that we crossed over 13,000. We crossed over 13 like about a year and a half ago. And that was the first time we hit it in years. So we're at a pretty crazy time in Bitcoin. If it keeps going up from here, we could easily see 20,000 again in the near future, maybe more. Who knows? Honestly, I just think it's going up from here. I don't know where. I'm not giving it price targets, but I think we will see that 20,000, that magical number that everyone went crazy over again.
Yeah, and just as a disclaimer, Phil is like you said, he's the Bitcoin guy. He's huge into it. I don't have any coin. I was never a believer. I've come around though in the last bit here, because I have seen a kind of like you said, a decoupling from the market. And I don't necessarily believe in it as the instrument that a lot of people do. But I also understand if you can find a wave and ride it, you're going to surf right into a nice beach house on shore. So uh,
No doubt. I think it's honestly, I think it's definitely not a market. It's a commodity market more than it is a financial like a stock market for sure. It's definitely a
without a
commodity
doubt, without a
market.
doubt, without a doubt. And
Because you can actually price Bitcoin for like the price of energy it takes to mine it, the whole 9 yards. It's somewhere in the seven. I've read a few different estimates, somewhere in the $7,000 to $8,000 range for the actual price to create a Bitcoin these days, like through the
mhm.
internet and whatnot. So
and
obviously, it's
the
like gold.
technology is the technology is beautiful. I mean, it's incredible technology and something that we've talked about before. And I think it's going to be behind your cell phone, behind your bank purchases,
Yes.
behind really everything, your insurance, all that.
Pay
Um,
stubs, the whole nine. It will all be crypto. It will all be blockchain one
it
day.
will all be through blockchain chain technology. My biggest thing is, and I don't necessarily know if I'm even still, over the hurdle, but I'm definitely nearing the hurdle to the point where, um, I never really thought Bitcoin would necessarily be that one that lasts forever, and I still don't necessarily think it is. When in reality, do you think that the government would
Oh,
allow it to ever go
no,
that
no,
high
no.
without
I think
just
there's
creating
gonna be
its own
they'll
crypto?
the government will create their own crypto that becomes the US dollar, no doubt. But I believe that Bitcoin is just here to Bitcoin will always just be here. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
it's not gonna be it could be the gold to the virtual US dollar. It could be the virtual gold to the virtual US dollar in that aspect. But I don't know. We'll have to see. The government could try to stamp. Governments have already tried to stamp out Bitcoin. That's the thing. They have been. Like China made it illegal. India made it illegal. But now that was years ago. It's all starting to become legal everywhere. What's it called? China, they specifically want to buy it. China said you're not allowed to sell it to anybody but us. And they're actually paying people to mine it so that they can use it to buy oh sorry, not China. Total that was a lie that came out of my mouth. It's Iran is mining Bitcoin right now
Okay, for the
because
nuclear.
not even that, because they have so many sanctions on them. They can't buy anything. They ran out of foreign money. They don't have dollars. They don't have
Yep.
any dollars to buy anything right now. So what they've been
Yep.
doing, they told their people, you're allowed to mine Bitcoin now, but you have to sell it to us. And then they're selling the Bitcoin for US dollars to buy imports.
Imports. Wow. I
So
did not
like
know that. That's very interesting.
so yeah, it's growing. There's definitely a way that it could be used in other aspects other than just buying and holding for a store value.
Mhm.
People are using it to create transactions and economies through it for sure.
Speaking of Iran, and we'll talk. Well, what do you see happening? With an Iran situation, with North Korea, with a China, with a Russia. Given Biden were to be elected, what would happen with those relationships? What would happen with deals with those countries?
It's
Um,
going back to the Barack Obama era. We're gonna be soft on China, soft on Iran, buddy, buddy. You know we're having a new Iran nuclear deal if Biden gets in, but it's gonna be just as relaxed, just as fake. The inspector will have to give 30-day notice before he shows up. The whole 9 yards, all that BS that they had at LinkedIn last time. But
yeah. What about
China,
North Korea?
North Korea, that I'm not really sure on North Korea because I feel like Trump's been kind of deceptive about North Korea too. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he
In
goes
what
in, he's
sense? In what
bad,
sense?
in the sense that he says it's always going well and like, but then no deal ever gets done. You know what I
Oh
mean?
yeah,
Like,
he's a
it's
salesman. I
always
mean,
great.
you're
It's
never
always
going to
great.
tell
It's
people
always
that's
good.
not going well. Yeah.
Yeah, like obviously he's not going to tell us it's not going well, but I would like to know like where we really at.
Where you really stand. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that
As of right now, I feel like we're at the same spot we were 5 years ago, 6 years ago. Remember when everyone thought they were gonna nuke us when we were in like late
See,
high
and
school?
my thinking on the idea is simply, goes along with that is that I I think he's a little bit wild, but I don't think I know he's not a stupid guy. I know Kim Jong is not a
No
stupid
doubt.
guy. And when it comes down to it, he knows that we would, if they were to provoke
Didn't roll.
something, it would be the end of his reign and probably his country altogether. So I don't think he would ever do anything that crazy. I think he's big on the propaganda and such, just like Trump is. He's got to show he's got power, not necessarily for the world, but if he shows the world or tries to put if he puts the middle finger up to the world, knowing that the bigger countries aren't really going to initiate anything with such a small country. He's winning on his end by seeming strong and powerful to his own people, and not really losing anything on the world stage because they all know he's fucking crazy and know he's not going to do anything when it comes down to it.
No
Anyway, so
doubt.
I kind of see it as a mute and yeah, mute.
But I feel like he's definitely smart enough to realize too, like you were saying, he's not dumb that he could wait out these 4 years. Like he can kind of BS with Trump a little bit, say, "Oh, I'm going to come to this meeting," and then storm out, and
Mhm.
then just pray like on his end, hoping that Trump doesn't get reelected and that Biden just doesn't go to talking to him because He could just, what if Biden gets in and he just goes, I'm not talking to you guys anymore. Like, it's that.
Now, what do you think would happen with NAFTA, or I'm sorry, with the new NAFTA? What is it? The USMCA, the U.S., Mexico, and Canada.
Honestly, I really haven't heard Kamala or Biden speak on that much. Have you? Because I feel like the big worry.
I have heard though. Biden admit that it was better than NAFTA. I have heard that.
Well, then I would say they're probably gonna leave it alone. But I'd be worried if I was involved in the fracking industry. That's what I'd be worried about, because that man obviously has a clear agenda of coming after fracking.
Against fracking, it's dangerous to the whole country. And we've spoken about this away from the podcast. The reality of the cost that would have to go into infrastructure to implement anything like what he said he would be looking to implement is just so far out of the stratosphere and so far out of reality. Couldn't be accomplished at all, feasibly, at all, in a 4-year period. Probably pretty challenging to ever happen in an 8-year period were he to win and then win again in 2024, which would be wild because it's, he'll be lucky if he makes it to 2024.
Like what you're saying with the infrastructure and like switching from fracking to like green, for example.
Switching from fracking to green energy. I mean, and not only that, and we talked about, the emissions that farming, cow farming and cattle farming, stuff like that gives off. But to make things like the windmills that are going up in these big rural areas, you're using oil. How are you going to make these? They don't truly understand the entire process that this whole cycle works under.
That's part of the reason why I really don't like politicians of the government, because they're not stupid. I know they know that. They know the process. They just try to sell it as it's not the process.
He knows that he doesn't know the process.
Or he knows damn well that it's still going to cost oil to create those things, and he just knows that that's what the people want to hear, is that we're going green.
Yeah,
it's a scary thought, but I don't want to think about that. Like, I don't want to think like that about people. But what has the government done in the past 25 years to show us any different?
Nothing. What about 42 years or 47 years or whatever it may be?
Rudy Giuliani was going off in the city at one point, so he gives me hope that the city can be cleaned up. No cap on that. I think
they're fear dealers. They deal in fear, and we talked about it on the last podcast. And I thought it really was going to make a difference. And I think it has made a difference. I don't know if it'll make enough of a difference, but immediately in that second debate, Biden started by saying right off the bat, we're looking at a dark winter. And Trump followed up by saying, no, we're looking at brightness. We're looking at prosper coming up this winter. And
100%.
Americans want a positive outlook. They want to see possibility in the future. And they don't want to hear dark winter. They don't want to. They want positivity. They want perseverance and not fear. And
they want to see a happy future for themselves. They want to.
Yeah. They don't want to buy fear.
I really think Biden went for the whole dark winter thing, because I feel like he was really trying to play into some pop culture, like some Game of Thrones type thing. Because I feel like he's always trying to play into pop culture. Did you hear him with the Migos the other day?
I did see that.
His rally. I mean, Trump brought a little pump up on stage too, so he's definitely about the culture as well. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
everyone's selling themselves.
That's hanging out with the Nelk boys. He's hanging out with
the Nelk boys. That was great.
They are funny guys. They are funny guys.
That's one of those content creators that we were talking about. They create great content, and you know what? They're rewarded for it.
They are rewarded for it. All right. Anything else you want to touch on?
How long have we been going? We hit
about an hour and a half.
We haven't touched on the riots at all, honestly. Well, the possibility. There hasn't been riots yet, but definitely see. All those stores have been getting boarded up and are still getting boarded up, according to my dad's been in the city every day. So he said there's still
put a pause on real quick. I gotta run out real quick, quiet these dogs down. They're going crazy.
All right, stop video. I click.
Sorry. 1 sec.
Okay. Oh, hold on. Before you pause. So hold on. What were you?
Sorry about that. We're back here. So we were talking about riots, right? Riots
Yeah,
and what might happen. I think we kind of have a little bit of a different opinion here again, and you see it, and I'll let you speak to how you see it, but I see it generally as I do think there will be absolute, mayhem should Trump secure a victory, especially in places like DC, big city areas. Um, I think on the flip side of that, though, there might be an outcrying on maybe a social media or something like that. But I see the idea of physical rioting and such should Biden get elected as almost a nil possibility. I don't really see physical presence from Trump supporters or Republicans or conservatives or anything or anyone which way you want to hash it. Um, but that's how I see it. I see big time riots on the left should the right win, and big time maybe Facebook posts and there might be some unhappy just rhetoric going around altogether. But as in terms of a physical presence, I don't really see it. Should Biden win? What do you think?
I don't know. I think, on my opinion, I think marching is happening no matter what. I think the looting and the violence is going to occur most definitely when Trump wins. But on the off case Biden does win, I really think Trump supporters will take to the streets.
Let's separate it though, because you don't.
Did you see?
Let's separate it. Let's separate it
Did you
from.
see them shut down the Mario Cuomo Bridge the other day?
I didn't. No, I did not.
Now, I'm not comparing that. Now, the Black Lives Matter people did the same thing. And obviously, mad people were bitching about that. Like,
Mhm.
oh, I hope there's no fire ambulance behind them. And the same thing occurred with the Trump people. And like, you're both jackasses. Stop blocking down bridges. Like, just I
Without a
mean,
doubt.
the Trump people didn't really block it down. It was the case that they had such a big motorcade that they
They
literally
wouldn't let
moved
him off the
traffic.
exit or something like that.
Yeah, they literally moved traffic down to like 2 miles per hour. Like it was
Yeah.
bad. Like so, like they're causing an inconvenience. Which I mean, like, yo, you have your right, do your thing. So I
Hmm.
could see something of that nature occurring. And it won't be violent. They're not going to be disrespectful to the police. They're not going to try to fight people. I don't think.
That's
Hopefully,
that's that's where I wanted to kind of draw the stark contrast there is that
yeah.
I
No,
see it
definitely,
as giving
definitely
one
a
side
big difference.
all out looting, rioting, no care for businesses and such. Whereas on the other side, there's going to be respect for your business. There's going to be respect for your personal property. For the most part, maybe
I think
definitely your Biden lawn signs probably getting ripped out, which we can talk about political lawn signs. In my opinion, probably the stupidest thing I've ever seen. I don't know one person in the history of the world that's ever driven past a political lawn sign and said, "You know what? That made me change my vote. I'm gonna switch." Realistically, what it does is make half the world hate you and know where you live and hate
it
you.
alienate you. It alienates you from half your neighbors. Half,
Half your
literally
neighbors.
half, every time, no matter what. And the other half are going to love you because of it. But are you going to like the other half that likes you?
Yeah, you
They
could
not.
take the sign off your lawn and all your neighbors would like you. I think Dale Carnegie in How to Win Friends would probably say uh, 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 elect against putting the political lawn sign in your front lawn.
Definitely. It's like how you don't talk politics at the dinner table.
You
It's
don't need
just
to do it.
you
It's
just
just
don't have to do it. It's just
that's gonna
unnecessary.
listen. Thanksgiving, thank God for many families. Thanksgiving is going to be virtual this year because there
Yeah,
was going to be some
fights,
tough conversations at
real
the dinner
fights.
table. Just like just like 2016 when there's definitely some tough ones at the dinner table after the old pompous princess didn't get her crown that she was
Definitely.
so so willing to accept and so believing that she was going to get. There was definitely some tough conversations then, and they're very well, you know, can be at many of them that are going to be in person this year. But I know like in New York here, we got Cuomo telling us that we can't have more than two families or whatever. If you that's another one. So this new thing in New York, Cuomo says that if you have, and I think Newsom also said the same thing. Only two, so you can have a the grandparents, I guess, the father and mother,
Yeah, if you
they
have
can
three,
have two of their kids over,
yeah,
only two of their kids and their grandkids. But if they can't have all three of them over. If they have three kids, they can't have four of them over. If they have four kids, they got to select
yep.
only two of them. It's just like what how can
Where
you
are you
how
getting
can
this
you
from?
elect who a person lets into their home and when and
Mhm.
where they elect people into their home, and that's where at that point it goes to straight autocratic, authoritarian rule in New York State, which I mean in reality, as wild as it sounds, um, we kind of have to, especially in this coronavirus, we kind of have to live by the will of old Andy.
I mean, there's definitely a majority of people that will have to live by the will of old Andy, but it will come to the point where people are going to start doing their own thing. Where I'm telling you, I know personal trainers already who have full gyms set up in their basement, and for the past 8 months, they've been taking their clients into their basements and working them out.
Yeah.
Because you know what? They're hustlers, and at the end of the day, it's what the founding fathers would have done. If they said,
go out
we're
there
going
and
to
make
tax you
money.
on this tea, they said, okay, we're going to smuggle this tea in right under your nose in the harbor. Like, we're going to smuggle it. Just like this dude is smuggling his workout service. Like,
yeah, when the dictators rule.
we have this bar in my
evade.
town, for example. They got in trouble mad times. The dude, my boy Joe, his mom is over there, and apparently they got in trouble mad times for an inspector would walk by and there'd be someone like walking around without a mask on. So he got popped a few times. So they decided, screw this. They put boards on the windows, pretend they shut down. They told all the regulars, come through the back.
Yep.
And that only the people. If you're in the know, you're in the know. You can go to this bar now because you just go through the back, and you don't need mask. Nothing. Is it right? Is it going to cause COVID cases? I don't know, but they're getting to the money, even though Andrew said no, 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 no.
And yeah, and what it comes down to is they need to have the ability to make that decision. This is how we're going to run our business. You as the government or as Andrew Cuomo should be able to definitely tell them, well, you need to alert the public as to what practices you're taking during these times, to what your guidelines are, to whether or not you're going to allow customers to walk without masks or this, that, and the other thing. Whether you're going to do it, but it should be up to you to determine that. And once you determine that, then Americans have the freedom to make decisions. And this is something that I tell everybody that I work with. You've probably heard me say it before. You'll probably hear me say it again elsewhere and on the podcast. Is I'm a true believer that when Americans are given good context, they make good decisions generally. They just need to get the good context.
Yeah, that's the thing. They're getting sold fear, like you were saying. They're getting the fear, so it's not good context, as you were saying. It's putting them in a bad spot, make bad decisions.
Yeah, it's sad.
Emotional decisions.
No emotional decision was ever made properly.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, maybe wrap up here and check out what we got going on in the polls, and then.
Yeah, I was just actually scrolling through that. It's
and then see.
Some things are looking a little. Click this over here.
I think the reality of it is we're just not going to have an answer for a long time. There's going to be legal proceedings that are going to go on about this, and it very may well end up in the Supreme Court's hands at some point. And let's talk a little bit to that before we head off here. You've said that you think and correct me if I'm wrong. You think that it's much more up in the air than I think myself. Should it go to the Supreme Court? You think there's a possibility that Biden were to win if it were to go to the Supreme Court, whereas I think that if it were to go to the Supreme Court, it would be all but a Trump lockup. Now, if they want, if Biden was to win that, they would have to flip at least 2 seats to flip it to 5-4 in their favor. And that's where really I draw the stark contrast. I don't think that they could flip 2. I think 1 is very possible and likely will happen should this go to the Supreme Court, but I don't think it's very likely that they would flip 2, and especially and I know they're and I'll let you go in, but especially in a year with so much emotion being put into decisions, even though they are justices on the Supreme Court and rule along the guidelines of the Constitution. This isn't necessarily a matter of is this constitutional or not. This is a matter of are you going to pick him or pick him? So it's kind of a different.
Why? But what's the? Let's unpack that a little bit. What's the reason why they're in the court? Are they fighting over? Is Trump fighting over the 100,000 votes? Like, You know what I mean? Like, there's got to be a reason. So if Trump says,
So I was speaking more along the lines of a contested election, meaning there was no real answer from the Electoral College. They ended up at a 269 lockup, something like that, or 269,
yeah, but
268.
I don't think that's going to happen. I'm talking, I think Trump's going to say there was voter fraud, yada, yada, yada. We're going to
Mhm,
go to court, right?
mhm.
And then in that case, if they
For a
don't find
recount, you're
voter
saying for
fraud,
a recount?
yeah, not even that. What if they don't? What if Trump makes the argument? Let's say he loses theoretically. Then
Mhm.
he makes the argument there's voter fraud, these 100,000, 300,000 votes. Then they go to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court goes through all the evidence, whatnot, and they sit down and they decide there was no voter fraud. Like, they're not going to just vote Trump because they're Republicans. I don't think. I think they're going to vote with.
And no, I would completely agree there. They're not gonna change their stance on the accuracy or the
Yeah,
constitutionality of the
I'm not
results
sure
if
how.
the results
I'm
are
not
in
sure
fact
how.
accurate.
Yeah, but I'm not sure how it's going to go to the Supreme Court. Like, for what reason? You know what I mean? I think it depends a lot on for what reason it actually goes there.
That's definitely a huge thing. It's definitely a huge thing.
Yeah.
Um, and I would agree if it does go down to well were these votes legitimate? Well, the evidence will be presented, and if the votes were in fact legitimate, then I would have confidence that all the Supreme Court justices would rule in that
Yeah. No, I truly
as
believe that they
such,
will.
and Biden would win in that case. Yeah.
But because I'm trying to think when the whole Bush thing, it was over the Florida votes. It was over that specific state. So like, I'm thinking if maybe they went to court, it would probably be over those hundred
Over
thousand votes
a
we're talking about.
Michigan or
Yeah,
a Wisconsin, something specific along those lines.
yeah, something. Now before when we were looking, wasn't Michigan red when we started? Because now it's blue.
No, it was blue when we started.
Okay. I'm trying to see if we got anything that's kind of changed around. It kind of looks the same from when we started 2 hours
Yeah,
ago.
still 238, 213. Nobody has reported or nobody has called their state as of the beginning of the podcast. Wisconsin with 95% of the vote. Biden at 48.9%, or I'm sorry, Trump at 48.9%, Biden at 49.6%.
Yeah.
Um, Michigan, Trump 48.8 to Biden's 49.7. PA, Trump with about an 8 point lead, a little bit over an 8 point lead. Georgia, he's leading by about 2 points. That one looks like it's pretty much locked up. North Carolina, he's leading by about a point and a half. That looks like it's pretty much locked up in his favor. Nevada is getting very close with only
Oh,
67% of the votes counted in Nevada.
oh,
So
you have
that could be
57? I got 82 to 91.
in Nevada.
Yeah.
Okay, and what's the numbers there?
I got 588,000 votes for Biden, 580,000 for Trump, 49.2 to 48.6.
And that's the exact stats I have. So again, with these,
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Something,
So these are so
something
so
predicting.
wild and so lacking consistency that you can't really
Yeah, that's what
believe
I
too
mean.
much of what you hear. But
Exactly.
yeah,
What we were talking about earlier, how we'd rather see the scientific process behind, like, give me your poll, give me your info that you got, no doubt, but tell me how you came to that conclusion.
yeah, and that's what it comes
Like, you're
down to.
writing a paper. That's exactly what you do when you write a paper. You tell them what your conclusion is, but how you got there, you got to explain yourself.
Yeah, and a lot of it falls on us too, as Americans for not digging deeper and going to search for that information. There's a lot of people who are content just kind of hanging them up at the end of the night, throwing on Fox News and watching all the right wing crazies go crazy, or throwing on CNN and watching the left wing crazies go
Definitely.
crazy, and not actually getting out there, getting on the laptop, getting on their phone, getting on their
And
iPad,
seeing that
getting
every
on
day. They're
grabbing a
seeing that
newspaper
every
and
single day.
actually reading and looking up the information themselves. And I think there would be a lot less division should
Most
people
definitely.
actually do their own research
You're getting
on
it drilled
topics.
into your head every single day that the other side hates you. You're
Yeah,
gonna start hating the other side.
without a doubt. And at the beginning of the Trump presidency, I tended to watch Fox.
Me too.
Conservative person typically, and even them over the past years.
They've changed.
Just yesterday when I was watching a little bit of Fox yesterday, it's like, what's going on here? These guys are brutal. This is a brutal showing. Uh, because there's no consideration of the other side. And I will give it to Fox. They do bring on some more liberal leaning people. I would say more liberal leaning people that come on Fox than conservative leaning people that
Come
go
on,
on
CNN,
some of the news stations.
most
But
definitely.
usually when they bring those people on, it's just a bash session. They're not really listening. Um,
Definitely.
they're reading
Tucker brings a liberal person.
prescripted statements that they're making against these people that they thought about hours earlier. It's not actual conversation or actually considering what's going on in each person's head.
No, no doubt. I 100% agree with that. And it definitely, if you look at CNN, they don't bring a lot of people, conservatives on. But also, if you look at Fox, like you said, it's a setup. They just bash and they're like, all right, I brought you on here just so we could argue it out for the next 30 seconds and get some good TV content.
Exactly the case. Markets killing it today.
Markets are ripping.
Futures were up, down, all over the place last night, flip flopping. Today we're looking 2.76 on the Dow, 4.45 on the Nasdaq, 3.34 on the S&P, and it's green all over. This is what I like to see generally, and I think everybody likes to see. But I think the biggest question is, how do we understand? How do we unpack this? How do we peel back the onion on this? Why is it going up so significantly today? Especially with things like it looking like, as of right now, it's looking like the probability is that Biden's going to win, but the probability is also that it's not going to be a straight blue wave. So there's probably going to be some deadlock in policy making for the near future. Pelosi's still holding back on stimulus, and everybody's really still holding back on stimulus. What do you think? How do you unpack it? How do you peel back the onion? And what do you
I
think
think
is going
I think
on?
the stimulus, no matter what, there's going to be. It depending on who gets in and who controls Congress. Definitely depends on size of the stimulus. But look at that! Look at that!
This is the
Look
world
at
map.
the size.
This is
Look
the
at that
S&P.
Amazon. Look at that
Was that?
Google. I said, look at that Amazon. Look at that Google. That's beautiful. All I have to say is, man, I don't know about you because we're both in the financial sphere a lot. I had a lot of people asking me, and I had a lot of people telling me too. This kind of got me a little angry, telling me how they went to cash. They went to the fixed account before the election because they were worried that the market was going to take a tank. And anyone that truly asked my opinion, I told them, I was like, I would just I would let things ride. I truly believe it. Stimulus will come either way. It's going to go up no matter what. And I would be really pissed right now if I sold out last week after 6 weeks of the market being down to go into my fixed account, and then I saw the S&P up the day after election day, 3.5 points. I'd be livid.
Yeah, without a doubt. And it brings the question as to, you don't necessarily need to take risk off the table. It sounds cliche to say, but in reality, stocks always go up in the long term. So if you've got positions
If
of
you
good
have
companies,
time,
you're
you're
in
fine.
at good numbers, then you don't need to sell out because of an election. Maybe take a bit of risk off the table, or take what you already have in cash and just play a volatility play, and you'll catch whatever upside in volatility that's
A
going
little
to
hedge,
cancel out
a
any
little
downside
volatility
in the
hedge.
actual equities, and then you'll still reset and catch the gains of the equities when they end up coming back. So you're, in a way, kind of eliminating your downside risk while still cashing out on the upside and gaining extra points.
Most definitely. And it's sad that a lot of people with a weak hand decided to give in after it was legitimately 6 weeks of losses, or 6 weeks of losses on the S&P. Crazy, absolutely crazy. It was down to 3,225 last, I want to say like Wednesday, so like a week from today, and we're back up at 3,477 right now.
And what do you think that's attributable to? Just the hope for stimulus,
I believe
this
that,
is coming either way.
I think the stimulus is coming either way. The Fed is pumping out more bills. Like, the government is gonna print more stimulus. They're gonna print bonds. The Fed's buying the bonds to monetize it all. Like, the train is just gonna keep rolling.
Yeah.
The train that we're already on. It's just gonna keep rolling to the point where the Fed's balance sheet's gonna be 20 trillion. It's gonna blow up in our face. But
Now,
we
what do you
haven't.
think? Where do you think oil goes from here? Because we've seen some fluctuations, some volatility in the oil prices. Depending on who's elected and this, that, and the other thing. Oil prices have been going up heavily, have been going down heavily
I think
in
oil's
intraday
going up.
trading.
I think oil's going up, to be honest, from where we're at right now. I think we
Okay.
had a wild spike of volatility when this whole thing happened in March when oil went negative, and from here on out we're going back up to like 60, $80 a barrel.
Really, let's take a look at this chart then. The one that we had kind of looked at a little bit earlier.
I just don't
Considering
see
each,
demand. I don't see demand coming down, honestly.
no,
Unless, I mean, of course, there could be short-term demand, just like in the case of April and the beginning of the coronavirus. Like if Europe starts locking down, of course, less oil is going to be used in the short term, but in the long term, I really don't see them phasing out oil like they speak on. Even if we did have a blue wave, I
mhm,
don't think they're going to do as much to oil as they say. They take just as much oil money as the Republicans.
without a doubt. And the fact is, also you have to consider the fact that, and playing to your point, oil pushing upwards. Russia said that they were going to possibly suspend and eliminate the January production hikes that would have continued to push oil lower just to sustain the price. And I'm not sure what other country it was, but then I believe another country said that they were going to pull back on production as well, coming up, that was expected for January. So if you look at both of those things, and like you said, oil's come down because of the thought, okay, blue wave's coming in, we're going to try and phase out oil. That's not the reality of the situation, especially not in a short term, which leads us to believe that there's probably some upside, some upside to oil at this level.
Yeah, definitely. I see oil mostly going up, but like I said, there could be not structural shocks to the system that
Without a doubt. And that's
corona.
all, in the general cycle of oil, you see oil prices come down during the summer.
Yeah,
Typically oil and gas prices go up a little bit during the winter. There's
because
more
even if
demand for it
Biden,
in the winter for heating and things like that. And the transportation can become a little bit more expensive during the winter. So different things like that play factors. But it appears that there's a lot of things pushing towards oil rising over the next month to 6 months, really.
yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, I mean,
So
we can.
I'm just scrolling across a little bit right now, and a lot of people are thinking Wisconsin and Michigan are going to have recounts, but it's still a little too early to call.
Yeah, I think
It's going to be wild.
yeah, that's truthfully what it's going to be coming down to. It is going to be very wild, somewhat unfortunate, um, but at this point, we kind of got to put it in the back of our minds and just keep chasing the check. Really, if we're speaking candidly, and it raises the question, no matter whether you think it's actually truly a rigged election or not, and I don't think you do. Correct me if I'm wrong, but we had
Yeah,
talked about this prior, uh, you know, and I don't necessarily think it is either. But if you were going to write a script, this is exactly how you'd write it. With all the events that unfolded in 2020, and then pushing the mail in, and then late in the night, overnight things are flipping from heavy one side to heavy the other side. Uh, and let me back it up again, saying I don't necessarily think that, and I don't really think at all that it was extreme fraud or anything of that nature. I think there was probably minimal amounts of fraud on both sides. Without a doubt, there was some frauds on both sides, but probably
yeah,
on a minuscule scale, nothing that's really too impactful.
nothing. Yeah,
Uh,
nothing
uh,
that's
but
changing the way.
but it makes you think, because it is such a crazy and it's such a script. You get the idea in your head and you can kind of run with it a little bit there.
Yeah, definitely. It is crazy. Like there's going to be a lot of calls of voter fraud. I think a lot. That's going to be the biggest call of this election at the end of it, because no matter who wins, why wouldn't the other side? It's just the payout is there. So just
Yeah,
call voter fraud,
nothing to lose.
have
Yeah,
the
nothing to
votes
lose.
recounted, have them all looked through. Hopefully, if you're the person that lost, like this would be your game plan, then hopefully like 200,000 votes get thrown out of your opponent and you win, like, and then you switches. But so I can't see this not going
Could,
to.
could you imagine the tension or um, the strife that would come should something like that happen? Should it come down to one candidate winning, them going back and recounting and saying, "Oh, we found some 200,000 votes that weren't supposed to be here. This state flips from one to the other, and just that flip means that." The other candidate's now the president. There would be such chaos.
I
That
mean, they
realistically,
decided Florida, and
realistically, that is the worst case scenario. I think.
that's up there. That's a contested
That
election.
was a different time though, and I think
Definitely
that things were a
a
lot
less.
calmer during that time.
Mhm.
And I guess in reality it did kind of decide the election, but it wasn't something where they declared one and then went back. They were just looking from the beginning, saying we don't really know who won it, and we'll let you know when we figure it out. From my standpoint, I'm saying if they were to announce one and then they, because that's what it's going to happen. They're going to announce one, and the
Definitely.
other side is 100% going to push legal action, go to a recount, and then they were to flip. It would be absolute chaos. It would be wild.
Definitely. I especially if it goes from a Biden victory to a Trump victory, the riots would be insane.
It would be
Absolutely insane.
incredible.
Like
It would be
people think
wild.
that back in when we were having the Black Lives Matter um riots and protests, but they thought those were wild. Just wait till if Trump gets in through the courts. It'll be
Yeah,
insane. We might have a civil war on our hands in some cities, in
and
major
it's
cities.
a scary idea to think about, but
I don't think it will spread to the most part to rural, to suburbs, but the major cities for sure. I would not want to be in a major city right now when it's game time when it gets called.
no. And I want to believe it, and I actually do believe this. I really do believe that there's less division than a lot of people make it out to be. I think uh, you know think about this. You're really in a vacuum. So we go on social media and we see all this hate and everything. Um, but going through my daily life, I don't see people don't talk to people in the rhetoric that they talk on the social media sites or anything like that, or the regular news media. Nobody actually talks with the rhetoric that those people talk, for the most part. And when it comes down to it, uh, you're going on social media, you're going to see more, and you're going to see a lot of the wild radicalness, and you're going to think that it's more widespread than it is. But in reality, you're going on the one medium in which people have to express that radicalism. They don't express it in real life. So
In their
uh,
real life.
it's
Exactly.
kind of a double-edged sword. You're going on there and you're seeing a lot of it, but it's a little bit skewed, a little bit biased, because that's the medium in which people are going to output that. So it's kind of like I learned this in a high school marketing class. If you have a bad experience, you're going to tell 10 people, but if you have a good experience, you're likely to only tell one person. So it's kind of
Definitely.
the same type of idea. Whereas the negative side can spread and can seem a lot more profound than it actually might be, just because of the way human nature lies.
For sure. Bad your word of mouth, a bad experience definitely travels further than a good experience. And I'm sure it works the same with social media and a negative because you're gonna share the negative story way more than you're gonna share the feel good story.
Yeah, and like you said again, it comes back
Or
to
the one
human
that
nature.
creates emotion
Uh,
in you. So like, for example, when we see something about like, California trying to put like transsexual studies in elementary schools, like some conservatives more likely to retweet that because they're seeing that and they're getting pissed. They're livid. They're like, "Come on!" And people need to see this.
it
But then
becomes
they see
emotional, and
yeah,
people
they
are
see
gonna
something good, they don't retweet it because they're
they're going to
just
express emotion more than they're going to express logic, and a lot of times emotion is on the back end. It's on the negative side. So that's really where
definitely
a lot of that lies. And it's a big problem, but I think if you're able to go into it and understand those things, understand that
cognitive
that's the
bias,
reality of the situation, then you're going to have a much different perspective on what's going on than most people.
most deaf. I
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah.
So
All right, that's probably a wrap. That's all we got. Getting
No.
close to that 2 hours.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll have a decision by Friday. We'll be back on live
Definitely.
with Friday. 10:30 ish is when we'll be on. And yeah, maybe we'll have some answers. Definitely, we'll have plenty to talk about in what unfolds here over the next couple days. And
We'll definitely
yeah,
have some answers about those 100,000 ballots because I just saw come across my phone that Trump's campaign manager has already started to petition Wisconsin. So we'll definitely
well,
know something.
yeah, we'll definitely know some things. Recounts are looking likely. So yeah, we'll be back. Thank you.